Thanks, Megan. It's a pleasure to have you here today to participate in our webinar about the rise of mobile devices in the laboratory and beyond. And although it may seem that way, I am not the guy lying on the table right there. Actually, this is me up here in the right-hand corner. I'll give you a little bit of a background of who I am and what I have experienced in my career. I am an informatics systems expert involved in the informatics world for greater than 20 years at this point. I have intimate knowledge and expertise in a variety of different software type of systems, lab information systems, electronic lab notebooks, chromatography data, scientific data management systems, clinical systems. You name it, I've had a lot of exposure and experience with these products and capabilities. I've also operated within a variety of different industries, including pharmaceutical and biotech and petrochemical and chemical and environmental and the like. I have visited more laboratories than I care to name all over the world in both the QC and R&D areas, and through the auspices of implementing and selling and marketing informatics systems have become very knowledgeable about the processes and procedures and the pains and the glories inside of all laboratories and different types around the country and the world. I also have extensive knowledge of IT and IT systems, networks, programming, databases, you have it, you name it. I had lots of experience in that space too, and I happen to have a PhD in chemistry. So that's a little bit about me, so you have an understanding of where my views come from and what my background is. So without further ado, let's take a look at what we're going to be seeing today. Again, we're talking about mobile devices in the laboratory and beyond. The first thing I want to go over a little bit is, both why people use mobile devices and, what we're defining as mobile devices for today's talk, as well as, where they're being used and how they're being used and the like. We'll take a look at the current state of mobile devices use in the laboratory and outside in the field. I'll give you a little idea of what's going on with that and where we all are at, as well as some of the challenges that are facing that informatics use in that space. Then we're going to take a look at the apps. There's apps everywhere. There's all kind of apps that you want to be able to use on your smartphone or your tablet and the like, and finding them is usually the challenge. We'll talk about that a little later on. Then we're going to go take a look at the future, a little quick glimpse of something that I think is quite cool and quite fun, and then we'll have our question and answer period. So with that being said, let's dive in. So why mobile devices? First, again, as I was saying, I wanted to define what we're talking about for mobile devices, and we're going to limit this talk today, this webinar today, about smartphones, whether they be iPhones or Android-based or Microsoft-based or BlackBerries, or tablets, the Androids, the Kindles, the iPads, and the like. And I know there's other mobile devices, of course. There's data loggers, there's, handheld instruments, there's all kind of things that are out there that are considered mobile devices in the world. But for this talk, we're just going to sort of limit our scope to a certain degree down to those types of classes of mobile devices. So why are people using them? It really comes down to efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, and mainly it has to do with portability and that unbound access. So people love mobile devices. I mean, you can't pry a teenager's hands off of their smartphone. But likewise, you want to be able to, in a scientific type of environment, you want to be able to have that unfettered access. If you happen to be out, let's say, with your spouse at a dinner somewhere, and you happen to be a lab manager, let's say, or somebody who's a supervisor required to release critical results or be notified about these things, you want to be able to get that information on the mobile phone that you have right then, the smartphone, as opposed to getting a notification like we used to and then having to either run home to get your laptop and logging into the systems or just waiting till the morning. So it's very important actually these days in the way people are actually interacting with the world to have that unbound, unfettered access to wherever you are. Now, of course, there's, even with the phones now, you don't even necessarily have Wi-Fi. You can use things over the actual phone networks. You also may want to be able to do remote monitoring and taking a look at the assays that are going on, the experiments you've done. If you've actually set it up right, you can actually take a look at, let's say you get a message that let's say an automation suite you're running is doing some lead to hit generation, and something is slowing down. You get a notification. If you have a webcam, you could actually take a look and maybe order the actual automation deck to put a new tip on or flush the system or what have you. For people in traditional type of field type of work, also having mobile devices is extremely efficient and also very highly for quality as well. You can take sample collection, you can have information available to you, you can have access to all the various information systems that you need, and for recording data and looking up protocols and the like. And then of course there's my favorite, which is apps. There's all kind of apps out there, and we'll go through those again. Quality point of view, if you actually use mobile devices and you can actually utilize those in the field, as we were talking about, or around the plant, or around the research facility, you have the removal from a quality point of view of transcription errors. So there's no more putting things down on paper or on your notebook or whatever, and then actually recording it later on and transcribing it into either a spreadsheet or a data system and the like. You, again, as I said before, you can have instant access to your SOPs, your worksheets, your protocols, whatever. So it's all about that. That's why people are using mobile devices, besides the fact that they're really fun to use. So let's take a look who is using mobile devices in the laboratory now. Now this